Okay, what's going on, everybody? YouTube and their fucking live streaming. I don't know when exactly we started, but okay. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. I am your humble host, Mangg. We're back to we're back to Final Fantasy XIV. I've slowed down a little bit on this game. I haven't been playing it quite as much as the last few weeks. Although I'm still playing it quite a bit. Hello, Star Killer. Currently, I am like, well, I've beaten Shadowbringers, the third expansion, so that's pretty cool. And so I'm working on the patch content, but I got stopped with the patch content due to needing a higher item level, so I've just been spending some time getting that up, leveling up some other characters, and just sort of playing the game. But I've also been playing some other stuff. I've been playing Wasteland 3, which I showed off in the variety stream this week. I've been playing some old school stuff, looking around at what's around the corner, so on and so forth. Speaking of which, this week on this channel, we had the ending of Marvel's Avengers with an epic 2-hour-long video that I did not expect to be 2 hours long. We had some Dragon Quest IV. Which it's not a long playthrough. We'll probably like finish it this week. And then we'll probably roll right into Dragon Quest V. But Marvel's Avengers ended sooner than I thought it would. So we're going to be doing Star Wars Squadron starting on Friday. But rather than just having a week of Dragon Quest IV, I'm actually going to upload my playthrough of Castlevania 1 on the NES, which is only a few videos long, but that should fill out the week a little bit. When was the last time I made any Elder Scrolls content? Make a Skyrim Revisited series or an Oblivion series? Well, I don't remember when I did it. That probably was a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. I did playthroughs of all the Elder Scrolls games up to Skyrim. Oh no, I think I did do a modded Skyrim playthrough. So that's, I believe, on this channel, as far as I know. Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and then Skyrim. Pretty much all of them involved mods of some kind, but I just felt like playing through the whole series. And actually this week, for the variety stream on Wednesday, I am thinking about doing some really modded Skyrim. Not like the crazy fucking Thomas the Tank Engine shit or anything, but like a more of a maybe a difficulty mod or something like that, like Requiem, and just seeing how it goes. If it goes well, if it doesn't crash, If it doesn't crash in like the 2 to 3 hour stream, then I'll actually consider doing like an actual full playthrough of it. But when you load up on a lot of mods, that's when things get really unstable. Yeah, so that's that. So this week is mostly Dragon Quest IV, Castlevania 1, and Star Wars Squadrons on Friday. Along with the variety stream on Wednesday and Two Brothers Play. We finished up Chrono Trigger yesterday with a 4-hour-long video. Which, you know, in the scheme of, like, streaming, 4 hours is not that long. I mean, a lot of streamers go for 8 or 10 hours at a time or whatever, you know, 6 days a week, or maybe not that much, but some of them do. And that's just like, okay, that's how it is. But I feel like, okay, I put out a 4-hour-long video. It's insane. But I don't know, maybe people like it. But maybe, you know, you go for those long videos because people come in and out. They chat, you know, it's more engaging. I don't know if really anyone is going to watch all 4 hours of us finishing Chrono Trigger. Yeah, I'm familiar with Wabbajack. That's what I'll be using on Wednesday. It's pretty incredible. I'm glad that it's expanding. I saw that it expanded to, like, Stardew Valley now and stuff. So, really a godsend. Anyways, so Chrono Trigger, yeah. We didn't really, I mean, it wasn't the plan to go 4 hours, but it's not like we set a plan. The only plan was we're gonna finish Chrono Trigger tonight. Just so happened that took a long time. I mean, I've spent many hours modding Skyrim. I mean, I did the entire Legacy of the Dragonborn thing, which took like 20 hours to fully do with all the extra steps, and it was just like, I never want to do this again. And even though after I did all that, and I felt like I did it all correctly, I mean, I'm not a complete idiot, it still was not stable. So, but I mean, that was like, that's just an insane amount of mods. And I've done Wabbajack stuff, and it's a hell of a lot quicker, a hell of a lot easier, but last time I did it, it still didn't seem that stable. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how Wednesday goes. So we did, I mean, Chrono Trigger is done. We're going to be moving on. At this point, it's like, we don't, I mean, you know, originally Two Brothers Play was like, okay, I'm going to do this like James and Mike Mondays. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to edit all the videos. We're going to play like one game each week. I'm going to edit it down into like this really interesting, cool 30-minute video. And that'll just be, you know, that'll be this little extra side series I do. And now it's become, we play old school RPGs side by side for 4 hours, and I don't do any editing. Because it's like, I'm not going to sit there. I mean, we finish recording at like 2 a.m. I'm not going to go up, you know, and edit down this 4-hour video at 2 in the morning when I can just upload it. So really, it probably would be a lot better just to stream it every Saturday, even if no one really watches the stream, at least that saves me the trouble of rendering and uploading since I'm not editing. The only issue is we record in my basement where I don't think the internet is really up to snuff to streaming. I mean, I'll take a look, but I kind of doubt it. So next Saturday, regardless, we're going to be moving on to Final Fantasy IV on the SNES. We'll be using the Ultima ROM hack, which adds in a whole bunch of enemies, bosses, weapons, spells, areas. It adds in some quality of life stuff, and overall it should be just a little bit of a fresh experience rather than us just playing vanilla Final Fantasy IV. So I'm really looking forward to it. Lego's really looking forward to it. It should be a pretty good time. Unlike Chrono Trigger, which I knew a little bit better than he did, I think he knows 4 a bit better than I do, although I'd still say I'm the better gamer. So it'll be an interesting little race. And then after that, we'll move on to Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy VI, and then there's plenty of SNES RPGs we want to do, and then I want to go back to Final Fantasy IV at some point to do the randomizer, Free Enterprise, which I think would be really cool to do more of like a co-op thing where we have the same seed and we just sort of help each other out through it. And then maybe, you know, a year down the line or whatever, we do a race of it with different seeds. Other, like, Link to the Past randomizer. Final Fantasy Tactics I'd like to do. Regular Final Fantasy Tactics I think is a bit too tough to just sort of like speed through without grinding. But there's a ROM hack that I tested out, and I was just testing out, trying to see, just burning through without doing a single optional battle, how far could I go? And I got decently far. I think we could probably do it with just like, I think it would be interesting for a race because optional battles would definitely help out. So it'd be interesting to see how many each of us try and fit in. Because we're both really big fans of that game. So yeah, there's just a lot of things we'd like to do, and we're really enjoying it. So even if nobody watches all that shit, we're gonna keep doing it because we enjoy it. Yeah. So that's what's going on this week and this channel. Over on the Exploring series, I could already use a vacation, but, you know, nose to the grindstone and all that. We've got October coming up now, so there's going to be a lot of work in my future. I don't really get a break until towards the end of November when I go on a trip with my buddies. But I released a video on Monday about some stuff, about some weird stuff. It was about, right, Such Black Light. That's right, Church of the Broken God and Are We Cool Yet? Getting together, mixing things up. I like the latest comment on that video is, are you Dutch by any chance? Brilliant. I am not Dutch, to my knowledge. So yeah, I think that was decently received. Not my worst video in the world, even though it's a bit of an oddball one, a bit of a weird one. And then I also released a video on the planes of existence, the various planes of existence in D&D. I like that if I pronounced sigil or sigil, if I pronounce sigil as sigil, which is incorrect, I get comments calling me out on how incorrect it is. Which, okay, that's fair. But then if I pronounce it as sigil, I get comments telling me how stupid it sounds. So really, you can't ever win. You can never win on the internet. And I know this from doing my Middle-earth series, where people didn't really care how it was supposed to be pronounced. They only care how they think it should be pronounced. You can also look at my video whenever I pronounce Abaddon, or Abaddon. They really hate Abaddon. Really hate that shit. Any plan on doing SCP-2747? I don't have every SCP memorized, so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Yeah, so the D&D video, you know, D&D videos in general have been okay. I mean, for a side series, it's about what I expect. The Tarrasque video is sort of like a highlight of the series' potential, but overall, nothing too crazy. And that series is going to start winding down now. There's not going to be any video for D&D in October because there's so many other things. And then in November, there'll probably be... November, December, I'll probably put out a couple more videos. But then towards the end of the year, I'll just be announcing polls. And we'll figure out what I'm doing next. I feel like since I mentioned it multiple times in the Planes of Existence video, I'm gonna have to do a video on like the outer planes and Sigil and stuff and Planescape, so that'll be fine. And then I don't really know what the other one I want to cover is. Maybe magical, like artifacts, magical items, like the popular stuff. Any plans on doing a side series about Soulsborne? Okay, well, here's the thing, and I know it's really unusual. No channel operates like this. I'm a freak, but I don't plan anything. All of my series that I cover, everything, is determined by complete viewer input and polls. I have no say in the matter other than a final veto, which I have yet to use. But it is completely out of my hands, and I make no plans. And I know it's just strange. No channel does that, because channels typically just focus on one thing that they personally enjoy and are knowledgeable about. But since I'm such a big fucking nerd, I like everything and I'll work on anything. And I always figure viewers know better than I do of what they want to see. Usually. And plenty of people were like, well, why do you do it that way? Why don't you just pick your own stuff? Probably around the time I was working on Celtic mythology, that was a sentiment. Because I didn't know jack shit about Celtic mythology, and it was not a very popular series. But now I can always just point to SCP. SCP has become my career, basically. It has made my channel far successful than I could have ever dreamed, and I would have never done it if it was up to me. So there you go. The viewers had it right. And I'm still shocked it even won the polls at the time, because I had just come off Celtic mythology. The other series I had covered was like Middle-earth, Elder Scrolls, Norse mythology, I didn't think I had a lot of fans that would be even interested in SCP, so I'm really shocked it won. But it did, and here we are. So I certainly would do Soulsborne if it won the polls at some point. I would not veto it, even though I think VodiVidya does everything that I could ever do better with a better voice, but I would do it. This week I worked on a video about the Chicago Spirit, a group in the SCP universe that operated in the mainly in the 1920s, 1910, 1930s, in Chicago during like the Prohibition era. And they used anomalies to pull off crimes. Sort of like a mafia unit, but with some SCP goodness in there. Yeah, a lot of people like that it's on Spotify and podcast stuff, and I would have never have thought to do it. Somebody recommended like a while back, like, oh, you should just use Anchor. It's super easy. You can just throw them all up on there. You might as well. And I was like, yeah, I might as well. It's really not much work for me to take a finished episode and put it on there. And for a long while, they were giving me sponsorships. They were throwing out sponsorships left and right. And it was all pretty good. I was making, not much money. Not many people listen to it on podcasts, but it was decent. But then they got bought out by Spotify. And then the only sponsorship I had for a long time was Spotify. Even though most people listen to it on Spotify, so it was sort of just annoying. But then they pulled that like a month ago. So now I have no sponsorships on there. And it doesn't make any income. But I'm still, I keep uploading because people enjoy it. It's a service that I'm providing, and I think that's fine. How many SCP entries are there? Any chance you cover covering all of them? Or running out of stuff to talk about? Right now, there are over 5,000 entries. I've covered probably like... I don't know, 5%, maybe. Yeah, maybe 5% I've covered. Maybe less, maybe a little less. Hard to say. 5% is like 250, 300 maybe. No, I probably haven't covered that many. Will I ever cover all of them? No. Not, well, partly due to just lack of time, because so many more are continually being written. I'll never just have that much time. But also partly because a lot of them I'm just not interested in covering for various reasons. Either they're too short, or they don't interest me, or they wouldn't fit in any sort of like compilation video, or they're just not that great. Will I ever run out of stuff to talk about? Possibly. I mean, a lot of it depends on the rate at which SCP authors continually put out articles. Right now, there's obviously a lot of authors. SCP popularity is as high as it's ever been. But yeah, there could be a time where that dwindles. There could be a time where I run out of interesting, lengthy, or compilation videos, groups of interest, things to talk about. But I don't think the SCP series will ever end. I think, at worst case, it'll get relegated to a side series, and I'll move on to something heavier and lengthier to do as a main series. such as Warhammer 40k, which I dropped due to the extensive research requirement. Am I aware of the Anthologies horror podcast, The Magnus Archives? No? I've never listened to a podcast. The podcast isn't really my thing. I feel like podcast is generally for people that are either commuting or they listen to it like while they're working. But I don't commute. I work from home. I don't really commute anywhere. And while I'm working, I'm either in silence or I'm like watching something. I usually don't listen to stuff. So I've really never followed any podcast whatsoever. When I was in college for a little while, I did used to listen to like audiobooks during like the bus ride. But usually it was just like Lovecraft audiobooks or episodes of Dragnet from the fucking 40s or whatever. Because I was a weirdo. Any interest in putting Warhammer Fantasy on the new series polls? Again, I do not control any aspect of the polls. I really cannot stress that enough. I do not choose what goes on the polls even. When I put out the first new poll, all I do is take the runner-ups from the last poll. Everything that didn't win last time. That's the first poll. And then the second poll consists of the top 3 choices from the first poll, plus the top 3 comments from the comment section of the first poll. It's a little confusing, but it's completely democratic, where I have no sway over things, and it's entirely up to viewers. I mean, if I was different and this channel, the Exploring series, was completely up to me about what I did, we would be in a very different place. For one, I would not be nearly as popular as I am now. I'm certain of it. And, god damn it. We definitely would have already done Warcraft at this point. We probably would have done Fallout by this point. I would have never have done Norse mythology or Celtic mythology. I never would have done SCP. That's about it off the top of my head. But it would be very different. But not that that's necessarily a good thing. Yeah. Radio drama with an overarching plot. Yeah, there's several of those. Again, it's just like I'd rather watch one of the 9 billion TV shows that I have yet to get around to. I mean, I've got nothing against podcasts. It's just I feel like if I wanted to pay attention, I'd literally just have to sit there and listen to something. I don't know. It seems like I'm only utilizing one of my senses there. Favorite Souls NPC? Chester. I enjoyed the Celtic Mythology series too. I liked covering that. That was really just like this whole new world I had no knowledge about. And I still think the Sons of Tyrion is one of my favorite videos I've done. I think that's such like a badass story. There's just some cool stuff in that whole series, and in the Norse mythology series as well. So I'm hoping like either the next God of War or one of the God of Wars down the line, maybe the third one in this new series, they go Celtic with it, because there's some badass stuff to be covered. Anyways, so yeah, I worked on the Chicago Spirit this week, and right now, for this coming week, I'm working on an audio reading of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, which is thankfully in the public domain and contains no dialogue, so I don't have to do any voice acting. And that'll be like an hour and a half reading or so. People should enjoy that, I think. Get us in that October mood. Or my thoughts on the new Color Out of Space movie. It was strange. Obviously, it was not like a direct adaptation whatsoever. It was just sort of inspired by Color Out of Space, which is probably my favorite Lovecraft story. I didn't think it was bad. I don't know if I really thought it was great. Visually, it was incredible. They created some really weird like environments and situations in that movie. I like Nick Cage, so that was a plus for me, but I could see some people, if you don't like Nick Cage, he was doing, you know, his usual thing. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I know the same director is working on like a Dunwich horror movie. That should be pretty interesting as well. I like that Lovecraft is popular nowadays. It makes me happy, and it's not just like overly commercialized stuff, or it's not just like overly goofy stuff. I mean, Color Out of Space was just a weird fucking movie, and that's, I mean, it should be. That's what it should be. So, yeah, I thought it was decent. Yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say. I watched a film about the Call of Cthulhu from 2005, Mute in black and white. I don't know what you mean by about. There was the adaptation from the Lovecraft Historical Society. I did watch that. That was pretty sweet. I'm not really into like old black and white movies like the silent films, but it was really cool. I thought they did a great job adapting what that story would have been like if put to film at the time period. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get. I mean, is it in my top 10 films of all time? No. But for what it was, for what they set out to do, I think they really hit the nail on the head. I don't know. Did I mention that? I must have mentioned that. I must have talked about that movie in my Cthulhu Mythos and Film video. Which, in a few years, I'm sure I'll have to do a part 2 to that video. Maybe plenty more stuff, you know, adaptations, but also stuff that's like heavily inspired. And eventually I'll have to do a part 2 of Cthulhu Mythos in games. Because the Sinking City came out. The Call of Cthulhu official game came out. Neither one was that great, but still. Two games I'm looking forward to, absolutely. A lot of stuff that's coming to the PS5 I'm pretty excited about. The new Horizon Dawn, Demon Souls remake, Elden Ring, whenever we get to see it. New Ratchet and Clank. Final Fantasy 16, I guess, at this point. Although, I don't know if you can really even say you're looking forward to it. It's so far off. It's like looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6, I guess. I think, yeah, next year should be very interesting for gaming, since this year was a bit dry due to extenuating circumstances. I played Darkest Dungeon. Yes. I've never gotten that far in it. It always just seems like too much of a struggle for me. It's like a really cool game. I mean, obviously I'm a turn-based RPG kind of guy. I love the theme of it. I love the aesthetics. It's just always so brutal whenever I play it. And I always just get so demotivated, and I don't know. I want to like it. I want to love it, and I want to beat it and do all that. But every time I get into it, I play for like 3 or 4 hours, and it's like, fuck. Hopefully I intend to upload the playthroughs. Yeah, I upload most things that I play. The only things that I don't upload that I play through on my own are like really some open world stuff, like some big open world games I prefer to just do on my own. And some like RPGs that involve a lot of text, like the Divinity games. Although I did do Baldur's Gate 2, so I don't know. Most stuff I upload. What game is this? Is Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, Microsoft buying ZeniMax. That was pretty crazy. $7.5 billion. It's sort of worrisome. I mean, it was already worrisome when Bethesda was bought by ZeniMax. Because, you know, anytime you get big corporations involved that own a bunch of smaller companies, you lose stuff in the process. You lose identity, independence. But now you've got everything coming under these big blanket corporations. I mean, Microsoft owns a lot of developers now. And on the one hand, I'm kind of happy because Microsoft is doing pro PC things, I feel. You know, they're not having any like console exclusives. It's all coming to PC, which is awesome for me because I don't have to buy an Xbox. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm very curious about what they're going to do in the long run. I can't say I'm super happy, but what can I do about it? Have I played the Banner Saga? No? No, I haven't. I should. That's sort of up my alley, a turn-based sort of tactical RPG like that. I think when I first saw it, it seemed to be a little bit too focused on just, like, the story aspect. I don't like the actual tactical combat didn't seem that in depth as far as like character development and customization. But I don't know, it seems pretty popular. But I don't know, usually most gamers aren't as like nerdy about character customization and development as I get. Like, I like the Disgaea games where you can level up to 900 fucking million. And I don't give two shits about the story. But... Or XCOM, where, you know, the story doesn't really matter that much. It's all about that combat. Alright, well, I guess that's really all there is to say. I was ill, as I mentioned, not last week, the week before. So I'm planning to go and get a blood test, an antibody test. I'm planning to donate blood, and they give you a free antibody test with it. So I'm planning to do that in like a week or so. And... hopefully, I mean, honestly, hopefully I did have COVID. That would be nice. Just because it wasn't that severe. I don't seem to have any lingering effects. And I would probably, I mean, that means I'm immune for at least a few months. I think that's what they believe at this point. So we could probably get the RPG group back together at that point. And then I would have something to talk about in Hanging with Mangg. But all right, so we've got Dragon Quest IV, Castlevania this week, somewhat randomly. I have a bunch of Castlevania playthroughs recorded that have been sitting on my hard drive for a couple of years. Variety stream on Wednesday with some modded Skyrim, I think. Two brothers play Final Fantasy IV with the Ultima ROM hack next Saturday. Check out the Chicago Spirit video tomorrow that I had to re-upload because I had to remove a few images that contained dead bodies. Oh, heaven forbid. Historical photos containing a corpse. All right, I guess it's sort of fair, I suppose. And on October 1st, my reading of Legend of Sleepy Hollow, if you're looking for something to fall asleep to. But all right, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.